Hey everyone, welcome to Massachusetts Sports Central. This is our NFL Power Rankings after Week 5 of the season. Just to remind everyone what these rankings are, this list represents how likely we think that each team will win Super Bowl 52. It is not an ordered list of the best teams necessarily. It also isn't a random list based on who beat who last week. So basically, this list is less reactionary than many of these types of power rankings that you see. That being said, as we get more into the season, the records will line up much better as playoff seeding starts to come into focus. So this is what parity looks like. Hard to tell who's actually any good anymore. And 21 teams are between 3 and 2, 2 and 2, or 2 and 3. The top team and a few truly terrible ones stick out, but pretty much everyone else could realistically swing 5 to 10 slots each direction. All right, on to the rankings. Number 32, staying put, we have the Cleveland Browns. Still winless, didn't look good again. They are going to more or less be locked into this spot until they show me a good reason not to be. All right, moving on. Number 31, the New York Football Giants moving down one slot. In the quite possibly the last matchup of winless teams this season. The Giants lost to the Chargers. They also lost Odell Beckham apparently for the season. They also lost Brandon Marshall for the entire season. The rest of the season, Shepard is out for at least one more game. So not only did they lose and are still winless, but they do not look like they're going to be in any shape moving forward. So this could be, it's just kind of funny with everybody saying that the Jets could have gone 0-16. The Giants, especially now, like that looks, probably not going to happen, but a much more realistic possibility. And it's kind of hard to see them winning more than a couple of games at this point. All right, number 30, the only other winless team, San Francisco 49ers, moving down one slot. They lost another game in overtime, so they've actually been competitive in most of their games. So I actually put them as the quote-unquote best winless team at this point. But they still haven't shown all that much and are not likely to move up too far in the standings from here on out. I do think they'll win a couple of games, but they're not going to be anything that good. All right, number 29, the Los Angeles Chargers moving up two slots. So they beat the winless Giants, but it was a pretty close game. The Giants are winless, and the Giants literally lost their entire receiving corps during the game. Near the end of the game when they actually could have come back and potentially still won. So the Chargers did not exactly impress in that game, but they're certainly better than the teams behind them. And, there are some other pretty bad teams, so they could potentially move up a little bit. But their season, again, even with the win, is pretty close to over, given that they're in the same division as the Chargers, the one-loss Broncos. Though the Raiders don't seem to be as much of an obstacle to overcome at the moment, but still, third seems like the absolute best possible scenario for them, and that's not going to be good enough for the playoffs in almost any likelihood. All right, number 28, who I am going to call by far the worst two-win team in the league, the Arizona Cardinals moving down four slots. Lost again, didn't look good in the process. The only two wins they have are over two terrible teams in overtime. So I don't give them too much credit right now. They just made this trade for Adrian Peterson. Peterson hasn't shown much at all this year so far, though I don't think the Saints were really trying very hard to use him. So this will be a situation where he will get to show if he has anything left. If he does, that will certainly help. He's not the same kind of player as David Johnson, but he can obviously at least fill in the running aspect of it that they lost. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he does. If nothing else, he should definitely get they should use him more in the way that suits his abilities. So I think we're gonna find out one way or the other. And if he does, if he does play well, maybe they can move up a little bit. But for the moment, this is a pretty bad team, and I don't see them going much anywhere. All right, number 27, the Chicago Bears, moving down two slots. So Trubisky didn't look like anything special, but it was his first start. So you didn't necessarily expect him to set the world on fire. Could show some potential. Who knows? They did lose the game, but they were pretty competitive, though the Vikings had their own sets of issues. The Bears aren't going to be a good team. They might be able to do a little bit better as the season bears on. But certainly don't think that they have, again, third is probably their best case scenario, and even that seems pretty tough. All right, number 26, the Miami Dolphins moving up one slot. They beat the Titans this week. They beat the Titans without Mariota. I think that says more about how good the Titans are without Mariota than it does about the Dolphins. They still had a hard time scoring any points. And if they can't score points, they're just going to have trouble all year. The defense is not bad, but it's not good enough to be able to consistently win games when when 2 touchdowns is like a great game for them. So again, the Dolphins are going to be fairly low in the standings, so they give me a good reason not to be, and so far they haven't given me a great reason not to be. Number 25, the Indianapolis Colts moving up 3 slots. They did win. Less for that. They're in a weak division, so they are mathematically treading water and doing okay. Once Luck comes back, if he's healthy and plays well, they obviously have a better chance. So they are kind of treading water, but right now they're still pretty bad. The defense is not very good, and the longer Luck is out, the less their chances are. Even though I do like Brissett. Brissett has actually been playing very well, and this is one of the few reasons that they're not buried much lower in the standings and much lower in the rankings. All right, number 24. We have the New York Jets moving up 1 slot. They won again. 3-game winning streak for a team that people were talking about, myself included, as being a realistic 0-16 candidate. They have had a favorable schedule early in the year, so they've played a lot of their weaker opponents already. But, you got to give them credit. They're winning these games, even though most people didn't think they were going to be able to. I do think this winning streak should grind to a halt with New England this week. If they don't, then you're going to see New England fall quite a bit, and you're going to see the Jets moving up quite a bit, because obviously at that point they'll be 4-2, and at worst tied, because currently they're tied for first in the division, so there currently won't be any worse than that. Number 23, the Cincinnati Bengals moving up 3 slots. So they won. They beat the Bills, who had been playing pretty well. I had not bought into the Bills are really good theory yet, so the disparity in them beating them in terms of my rankings were not all that high compared to a lot of other places, because I didn't have the Bills particularly high. Bills still have a good defense, and so the Bengals were able to put up 20 on them, so that was a positive sign. I do think the Bengals have improved a lot through the season so far. I still don't think they're going to be a good team, but they're not an easy out like they looked like after the first couple of weeks. So, credit to them for that, but we'll have to see moving forward how good they actually are. Number 22, the Baltimore Ravens, same slot that I had them last week. They did win. They beat Oakland, which, earlier in the year you would have said was sort of a big deal, but Carr was out. And again, this kind of shows the Raiders have consistently shown over the past 2 seasons that they stink when Carr is not there. Manuel didn't actually play all that badly or anything, but it just kind of shows that Carr is pretty good, and he is definitely a leader of the team and plays a lot better. Credit to the Ravens, they got it done. But not overreacting to how well they played there. Obviously if they can put some more stuff together, then we'll move them up some more. But right now, it's not so. Especially they didn't put up that many points given how mediocre the Oakland defense is, and the fact that they were able to shut down the offense pretty well. All right, number 21, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers moving down 4 slots. Yes, they lost the game, and obviously that is part of the reason they moved down. But I also, watching that game with the Patriots, so, I'm a Pats fan. I watch all the Pats games. I see some other games and parts of most of the games. But I hadn't seen a full Bucs game so far this year. And frankly, they just weren't that impressive to me overall, especially on offense where, everybody has been shredding the New England defense. Now, I am hoping, as a Pats fan, that that's that they are starting to turn around and are going to be better on defense, but also at the same time, you got to question how good the Bucs are when everybody's been able to move the ball and score them. Now, in the end, they had a very good fourth quarter, so overall the numbers looked pretty good against the defense. But they didn't do much the first 3 quarters, so that's one reason why they're kind of moving down for me. Number 20, the Buffalo Bills, down 2 slots. A lot of people are moving them down more than this, but a lot of people had moved them up way higher than this based on their previous couple of wins. So they lost to the Bengals. Obviously, the Bengals are not a great team right now. Improving, but not great. I think the Bills are solid. I thought it was ludicrous at the beginning of the year when people were putting them in the same category as the Jets in the trying to tank sort of thing. I do think that some of the moves they made had a future focus on them, but they certainly weren't punting this season completely. the way they've played with this pretty good defense that they have. I don't think that they're. I think they have a shot at being a 500-ish kind of team. Maybe if things fall apart, they might be more like a 5 or 6 win team. I think they're good enough where they certainly should be at least a 7 or 8 win team. Certainly could overshoot my expectations. Maybe be a 9, maybe even a 10 win team if everything falls right for them. But I don't think they're a great team. I do think that they're on the fringe of being on the playoff bubble is sort of where I see them. So they could move up a little bit, but they could certainly move down a little bit as well. I do think kind of high teens, low 20s is where they're going to more or less be all season. Number 19, the New Orleans Saints had a bye week, moved up one slot more because I wanted to move some other teams down. Obviously, didn't do anything, so not much to say there. We'll see this week, how much of some of the improvements they had been showing are real and how much of them are fake. So, pretty much all I have to say about them. So let's move on. Number 18, the Jacksonville Jaguars, moving up 3 slots. The most Jekyll and Hyde team in the league, I think. So they basically are either amazing, dominating, or terrible. That's pretty much all they've done so far this year. So this week against the Steelers, they were awesome, getting 5 picks. 2 of them they brought to the house themselves. So, the offense didn't have to do too much. Fournette had an amazing game. Bortles barely played in the second half. That's the key. If the running game is going so well and the defense is dominating, so Bortles doesn't have to do much, they do well. So I still don't trust Bortles, and for the most part this year when he's had to play, he hasn't been that good. The exception was the Ravens game. He was quite good there, but other than that, he either is marginalized or plays bad. So more often than not, your quarterback's going to have to at least do something. So I'm still not quite buying into the Jags. I'm moving them up, and if they keep playing well and if they can be a little more consistent, I'll show them some love. But right now, they're very, very, very inconsistent. Number 17, moving down 2 slots, the Dallas Cowboys. So they're now 2-3. They only lost 3 games all of last year, so that's obviously concerning for them. They had a lead. They certainly could have taken the Packers down, but they were not able to close the game. This is where I have a concern with them. I still think they're talented. I still think they're pretty good. I still think they at least have a shot at the playoffs, but they have been inconsistent and they've been hard, and they have not been able to put teams away. If they they can play well for 3.5 quarters, if they can't get those last few minutes in, they're not going to be able to win many games. All right, moving on. Number 16, the Minnesota Vikings. Same slot I had them last week. They beat the Bears, so that's a positive. They're 3-2, which still has them tied with the Lions for second in their division, so that's a positive as well. So Bradford was back, which should have been a good thing, but he actually did not play very well and clearly was not quite right and re-aggravated his knee and didn't play in the second half. Keenum came in and played a decent second half, so that was positive. But I don't think that they're going to go very far with Keenum as the number 1 guy. And now, again, who knows when Bradford's going to be back? They tried bringing him. Didn't seem like they were rushing him. But, he did not play well and he got hurt again. So who knows how long he's going to be out. I think if he's out for a long time, they're a middling team at best. And so they're right in the middle. All right, number 15, the Oakland Raiders moving down 2 slots. They are now in a 3-game losing streak, and their quarterback missed a game last week. They're kind of wishy-washy on when Carr is going to be back. If he's back this week, and he plays and he's not compromised at all, then Oakland could easily turn things around and move back up pretty quickly. Though I do think that they're sort of behind the 8 ball already, given that the Chiefs are 5-0 and the Broncos are 3-1, and already own the head-to-head win. So I think Oakland is going to be somewhat capped on how high they can go, just because it's already going to be pretty hard for them to get better than second in the division, and even that could be a little bit tight. Their best chance of making the playoffs is basically beating out all the other 6th seed contenders in other divisions. So I think that even just based on general talent, this is probably right around where they should be landing. But based on their playoff potential because of their division, they're going to have a hard time climbing above teams that they seem to be better than, even if they are able to turn it around. All right, number 14, falling down 4 slots, is the Tennessee Titans. So Mariota missed the game. and they lost to the Dolphins. As I said during the Dolphins thing, I think that says more about the Titans without Mariota than it does about the Dolphins. The Mariota injury didn't seem like it was all that serious. He could be back soon. But if he's compromised, then that will certainly hurt this team. They are now 2-3. But this is a division. It's 3-2 with the Jags, and they are 2-3 along with the other teams. So it's definitely wide open. So anybody could step up and make it happen at this point. Number 13, the Houston Texans moving down 4 slots as well. This is less because they lost to Kansas City, who's obviously very good, even though they were at home. That's obviously part of it, and the fact that they're 2-3, and the fact that at this point I don't think that if they had won this game, then home field advantage in the playoffs could have been meaningful for something. I don't think that at this point, I don't think the tiebreaker with Kansas City is going to mean much. If they had won, the Kansas City tiebreaker could have meant something. But they lost Watt and Merciless for the season, so that's a big hit to the defense. Obviously, they did okay last year without Watt, but it's hard to keep that up, especially Clowney hasn't been as good this year as he was last year, and now Merciless is who also played very well last year, and Watt's absence is now out as well. So that's some big stuff for them to overcome. We'll see what happens, but I definitely think that puts their chances in a much worse place. Number 12, the LA Rams moving up 2 slots. They did lose the game, but it was close. And I do think Seattle's a good team, and I do think Seattle seems to have found themselves, as we'll talk about in a couple minutes. So even in the loss, I did move them up 2 slots. Again, that does have almost as much to do with the fact there were just so many other teams I wanted to, Oakland, the Cowboys, the Titans, the Texans, all of them I felt had to move down based on their play, based on their record, and based on some of these injury concerns. So, like I said, I'm finally buying into what the Rams are selling, and I think they're going to be a pretty good team. All right, moving on. Number 11, the Carolina Panthers. Most people probably still think I have them too low, but I moved them up 8 slots. I have said many times that I don't believe in this team that much. Still waiting for the other shoe to drop with them, but at this point they are 4-1. They are playing really well. If they beat the Eagles this week, then I will move them up appropriately, for sure. If they lose, then I will somewhat think that my criticism has been somewhat validated, and I wouldn't drop them a lot because we're not talking about the Eagles for a while, FYI. So I won't kill them for that, but I will give them a lot of credit if they win, because obviously by then they'll also be 5-1 and will have beaten several very good teams. All right, number 10, falling 3 slots, the Detroit Lions. They played the Panthers very tough, but they did lose in the end. Stafford almost mounted a comeback. They were down bigger, made it close. Not super duper close, as the score might say, but they definitely got back in the game. I still like the Lions. They easily could be undefeated. Certainly could have one more win, as we talked about before with that Falcons game. That one was obviously a bit tighter. But I still don't dislike this team. We'll see what happens. Obviously, if they keep losing, I'm going to move them down. If they turn it around and start winning some big games, then they could stay in the top 10 and move up some. All right, number 9, the Washington Redskins had a bye, moved them up 3 slots. Again, this had as much to do with some of the teams that I moved down. I felt had to be behind them. I still think they're a pretty good team. They are only 2-2. But they have been playing pretty well. We'll see what happens this week. Again, they could move up or down fairly significantly depending on what happens the next couple of weeks. But for now, I felt comfortable moving them up since I felt I had to move some of these other teams down. All right, similarly, number 8, the Denver Broncos moving up 3 slots, also had a bye week. Pretty much repeat everything I just said about the Skins as far as why I moved a bye team up that much. Great defense, still iffy on the offense. Amazing at home, so on the road. So you said we're going to have to see. Basically, if they put up a good offensive performance on the road and win a game handedly, I will start to believe in them. But if they win almost exclusively on defense and only at home, then I think they're a 9-ish win team at best. But like I said, once they start putting some road games together, then I might change my tune, and they could certainly rocket up these standings pretty quick. Number 7, falling down 5 slots, were the Pittsburgh Steelers. I said last week when I put them at 2, I didn't necessarily feel good about that. It was just that nobody else in the top 5 really deserved to move up anymore. They were terrible against the Jaguars, and they have not been doing great all season. Ben has been lackluster. Bell has had some moments, but not a lot. Brown has been amazing at receiver, but other than that, there hasn't been too many highlights for this team. They do have all the talent to be a top contender, so I'm not going to just plummet them down 20 slots quickly. But they got to start showing me something, or they are not going to be. They're certainly not going to move up, and they can start falling down several slots each week until they are into the also ranked category if they can't show something. All right, number 6, the Green Bay Packers. This is where I had them last week. Good win versus the Cowboys. They do seem to have the Cowboys number, so I'm giving them a little bit less credit for that because they just always seem to beat them, no matter what the situation. That's not a knock on them, but if it was a team that they see, like if they had done this to the Falcons, I would have been more impressed. Rodgers is a great player as always. His receivers do a good job. They definitely are all on the same page with him, so they both elevate each other's play, so that's good. Defense, nothing special, but they did have a pick 6, which was basically kept them in the game, so they were able to get that game-winning drive at the end. Packers are good. They're certainly not going to fall a lot, but they could certainly move up if the teams in front of them start to falter. Number 5, the Seattle Seahawks. Some people will criticize me having them above the Packers, moving them up 3 slots. But they did beat the Rams, who've been very good this year. That was a big division win for them. And I do think that the Seahawks have looked very good the last couple of weeks overall. I think they've solved a lot of their offensive problems, and the defense is starting to show that they're truly great again. They were my Super Bowl pick from the NFC, so I believe in them, and as long as they're playing decent, I'm not going to be moving them down dramatically. I had already moved them down kind of lower than I would have thought they would have been all year, so I feel perfectly fine having them in this high at this point. All right, number 4, another bye team, the Atlanta Falcons, moving up 1 slot. Again, they only had them moving up 1 slot. This has as much. Basically, this is just Steeler fallout, where they fell so much, so a lot of the other teams around them are moving up. Still a little worried about the offense because it's definitely fallen off more than I would have expected. It was hard to keep them, think they're going to be as good as they were last year, but they definitely fell off more than I would have hoped. And the defense has been better, though, so they've been able to make up for some of that fall off. But again, this is definitely the time of the season where the rubber's going to meet the road. So we're going to see over the next couple of weeks what this team really is. Number 3, the New England Patriots. This is where I had them last week as well. I had finally dropped them after that Carolina loss and the disgusting performance of the defense so far this season. Defense definitely played a lot better, but they really only played for 3+ quarters. The 4th quarter, they definitely fell apart, so overall the numbers weren't that much better than some of the previous games, except for points, which obviously is the biggest thing. But still took some stupid penalties, definitely did not dominate in any way on defense, and the offense was not quite as good as they had been in previous weeks. Luckily, it was still good enough, but and obviously in any of the previous weeks, if they had held a team to under 20, there would have been a blowout. I still think that they are tweaking the defense and they'll get that fixed. The offense should be fine. Assuming Brady's okay, he does have like that non-throwing shoulder injury. So see how much that affects him. Obviously, if it does a lot, then that's going to hurt the offense. And if the defense isn't going to fully step up, then we do have problems there for them. All right, number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles, 4-1, moving up 2 slots. Another nice win. Big week coming up, playing the 4-1 Panthers. As I said during the Panthers thing, if the Panthers win this, I'm going to believe in them, and they're going to move up a lot. The Eagles, I think, should win this game. I haven't done my game picks, but I'm going to be picking them. I'll guarantee you that. This is a good team. I didn't think they were going to be a bad team. I had them at 9 wins. I had them just missing the playoffs on a tiebreaker in my preseason. I think that I probably slightly underestimated, well, especially because the Cowboys have underachieved in the And the Giants have been terrible, so definitely didn't think the Giants were going to be terrible. I still think the Cowboys could potentially end up right around where I had them, which was also 9-7. I just had them winning the tiebreaker. So yeah, I kind of liked. I didn't dislike the Eagles coming in, but I've been fairly impressed with how they've done so far. Some of the games have been tight and not necessarily against amazing teams, but some of them have been against good teams. But they win the games they're supposed to, and they pull out the games that are iffy for the most part. So that's kind of what you want to see. So this is a good team. We'll see what happens with them. And number one, once again, staying where they were, the Kansas City Chiefs. Another nice win over the Texans this week. Yeah, I mean, there's not much you can say. They just are humming, and they're good on every aspect of the game. Again, I don't think I had them much lower than most people that I had seen. I definitely saw some people who had them like in the low teens, maybe even. The lower teens, maybe even the high 20s on their like preseason thing. I thought that was crazy. Felt this was a playoff team coming in. I did think the Raiders were going to be the best team in that division, and I thought that they were probably going to be like a 10, maybe even 11 win wild card type team. Obviously, at this point, sky's the limit for them. We'll see how they come down the stretch and how they play in the postseason. But right now, there's really no reason to doubt them other tthan history. The team right now is just solid top to bottom. Very impressive. Like them a lot. Wish them well. Hope they have a pretty good season. I'm a Patriots fan, so I certainly hope that the Pats are able to overtake them or able to beat them in Arrowhead in the playoffs, as it seems like a not unrealistic possibility. Well, them playing the Chiefs in Arrowhead does not seem like an unrealistic possibility. Beating them, who knows? This is a good team. They're going to be a good team all year. I like the Chiefs, so good for them. All right, so that's it for this week. All right, thanks for watching, and please like, comment, and share the videos, and subscribe to our channel. You can also follow us on other social media. Facebook and Twitter are both @MA Sports Central. Thanks, and we will see you soon.